any independent reviews or advice that the committee may solicit determine that, and that is section 11, the project meets the requisite criteria and grant approval for procurement. B, the project does not meet the requisite criteria and guide on alternative methods for implementation. Or C, the project does not meet any of the relevant criteria and should be abandoned. Chairman and members, I have outlined to you one of the lawful steps as set out in the Act. The other lawful step that may follow at this project development stage is provided under section 43, 6 and 7 of the Act. Excuse me. In respect to the ADANI instance, in line with the law as it relates to the project development phase. Now, number one, Kenya Airports Authority and ADANI Airport Holdings Limited did not enter into a project development agreement as provided in section 43(6) of the Act. This Act is not 2024, it's 2021. Yeah. Section 43, subsection 6 of the PPP Acts 2021. Is that correct?
Is this subsection 6 or 7? It's written 7.
No, it's supposed to be 6. Again, Chair, as I told you, we were working on this. If you check, the Act is actually subsection 6. So this is one of the corrections. My apologies again, that should be made. And then again, the PPP Act is 2021, not 2024. So entering into a project development agreement is a discretionary and not mandatory requirement. So I wanted to point out that the two parties did not enter into a project development agreement as provided in the Act. But again, I'm pointing out that this is discretionary, it is not mandatory. 2, upon receiving approval for the proposal to advance to the project development phase, ADANI undertook a feasibility study that was submitted to the Kenya Airports Authority for review. 3, subsequently, Kenya Airports Authority, through the State Department, wrote a letter which is dated 4th April, and the details are provided there, of 2024, forwarded the feasibility study / project development report from ADANI Airport Holdings to the National Treasury for its consideration and approval by the committee. Attached herewith is the letter from Kenya Airports Authority and project development report, which is annexed in number G and H, respectively. And to show this esteemed committee the sustained steps by my ministry to ensure adherence to the law in the evaluation and submission of documents from project development phase, more specifically the feasibility study conducted in line with section 43(5), 1, the National Treasury, through a letter reference as indicated, and which is dated 9th April 2024, requested the Kenya Airports Authority to reconvene the evaluation committee to evaluate the project development report submitted by ADANI Airport Holdings. The evaluation was conducted from 15th to 19th of April 2024. Attached herewith again is the letter as annexure number I. 2, Kenya Airports Authority, through a letter reference as indicated but dated May 2nd, 2024, forwarded the evaluation report of the project development report to the State Department of Transport and copied to the National Treasury for review. Attached herewith is the letter from the KAA evaluation report and addendum to the evaluation report. That is annexure J, K, and L, respectively. This steered the process into the next stage, which is the assessment and approval of documents from project development phase to this end. Now, number one, the Directorate, Mrs. Chairman, conducted an assessment of the evaluation report and prepared a technical working paper that was presented to the committee in its 46th ordinary meeting held on 3rd of May 2024. Attached again is the technical working paper of the Directorate on the matter, annexure number M. The PPP committee considered the project development report and granted approval to Kenya Airports Authority and ADANI to proceed to negotiations with the assistance of a transaction advisor and address or negotiate the areas identified by the evaluation committee. Again, we have attached the letter on annexure number N, which is dated 9th May 2024. This is what one would call the preliminary heads of terms. Allow me, Mr. Chairman and members, to continue to outline the law in respect to the PIP process following the decision. Now that takes us to step number 10. Step number 10 is the procurement design stage. You can also call it negotiation of the PIP, section 44. So subsequent to approval of the PIP by the committee, the contracting authority shall, with the assistance of the directorate, directly negotiate the project proposal with the private party. The direct negotiations with the private party shall be conducted within 6 months, culminating with a project agreement subject to obtaining the clearance of the Attorney General for development of the PPP project. If negotiations are not completed within 6 months, the negotiation shall be terminated. Now, if the contracting authority, which is now KAA, receives more than one privately initiated proposal and all proceed to the project development phase, then the contracting authority may use a restricted tendering process, and that is provided for under section 44, subsection 4. If the contracting authority determines that the project should be procured competitively because of market interest or the existence of equally competent alternative technologies that could deliver higher value for money to the government, the contracting authority may elect to subject the project to open competitive tender under this Act. That again is under section 44, subsection 5. And I want to emphasize there, Chair, may elect. Where the contracting authority determines that an open tender is in the public interest, it shall establish a clear and realistic timeline for the preparation of tender documentation and the administration of the bidding process. That you will find under section 44.6. Step number 11. Step number 11 is publication of feasibility studies. Section 43.14. The contracting authority is required to publish the feasibility studies and project documentation used to evaluate the project, subject to disclosure guidelines on public-private partnership projects for the time being. Step 12. Approval of the concession agreement. The PPP committee is required to approve the execution of the project agreement between the contracting authority and proponent within 28 days after receiving the project and financial risk assessment report. Step number 13, comprehensive due diligence of the private party. Section 27 now of the Act. This is the due diligence conducted under section 27. Remember, we have two of them, Chairman. There's one provided for under section 41, and now we are under section 27. A contracting authority, before execution of a project agreement, is required to undertake a comprehensive due diligence on the private party to establish A, the financial capacity of the private party to undertake the project, and B, the relevant experience of the private party in undertaking projects of similar nature, C, relevant technical expertise to undertake the project, and D, satisfied the legal, social, and environmental due diligence parameters prescribed by the PPP Directorate. In relation to ADANI, Mr. Chairman, again, I don't want us to lose sight and focus on what is before us. What has followed has been negotiation of the PIP, section 44. More specifically, following approval by the committee, Kenya Airports Authority proceeded to directly negotiate with ADANI Airport Holdings Limited. 2, a negotiation committee was constituted and conducted negotiation through a series of in-person and teleconference meetings from 4th of June 2024 to date, and negotiated ahead of terms, as I mentioned earlier, detailing non-binding terms of the transaction. The committee included representatives from Kenya Airports Authority, which is the contracting authority, State Department for Transport as the line department, Kenya Civil Aviation Authority as interested party, State Law Office as required by law, and then PPP Directorate of the National Treasury, assisted by a transaction advisor procured by Kenya Airports Authority. The State Department of Transport, through a letter dated 13th of August 2024, and I've referenced it there, submitted the project and financial risk assessment report together with the heads of terms for consideration by the Public-Private Partnership Committee. Attached here is a copy of the letter, financial risk and assessment report, and heads of terms, annexure O, P, and Q respectively. The Directorate then prepared, this is number 4, an assessment of the evaluation report and prepared a technical working paper that was presented to the committee in its 47th ordinary meeting held on 21st of August 2024. Attached again is the technical working paper of the Directorate on the matter, annexure R. Number 5, the project and financial risk assessment report, together with the heads of terms, was presented to the committee at its 47th ordinary meeting held on 21st August 2024, as I stated earlier, and approval was granted to proceed to the drafting and negotiation of the concession agreement based on the agreed terms of the heads of terms. The committee directed that Kenya Airports Authority should ensure that ensures the following before signing the concession agreement. And there are 5, which were highlighted. A, cabinet concurrence on the implementation of the project. B, undertaking a detailed stakeholder engagement to proactively consider their needs. C, undertaking a detailed due diligence exercise of the ADANI Airport Holdings Limited in accordance with Section 27 of the Act. D, any material changes to the heads of terms should be referred back to the committee for approval. And finally, obtaining the legal clearance of the concession agreement in accordance with Section 62 of the PPP Act. The PPP committee also directed the following issues should be addressed in the concession agreement. A, include clear provisions for open book accounting to ensure optimal performance and full disclosure of the project accounts during audits and for calculation of government share of income. B, comprehensive review of the risk matrix to ensure that all risks are identified, appropriately allocated, and suitable mitigation measures are provided. C, the CAPEX schedule and development plan for refurbishment of existing terminal should be clearly defined. D, Kenya Airports Authority should ensure that current employees of JKIA are onboarded by the concessionaire on priority basis. And Mr. Chairman, I wanted to emphasize that. D, that Kenya Airports Authority should ensure that current employees of JKIA are onboarded by the concessionaire on priority basis and on better terms. Further, that the concessionaire gives preference to recruitment of Kenyan nationals in all positions. And I'm sure the honorable members would understand why I'm emphasizing the issue of JKIA employees, because it was very contentious. E, the drafting of the agreement should ensure that the concessionaire is incentivized to meet revenue and EBITDA, in short, targets within the current aeronautical and non-aeronautical charges, so that the project's implementation does not result in an immediate increase in aeronautical and non-aeronautical charges. Any increase of charges, therefore, thereafter, should follow the due process. Number F, cargo business should be well articulated and defined as to how it fits within the concession. And finally, G, local content should be considered in accordance with Section 83 of the Act 2021. Kenya Airports Authority should seek guidance on this from the PPP Directorate. Attached here with, again, Mr. Chairman, is a copy of the decision letter under reference as stated there, which is dated 22nd August 2024. It is annexure S. This logical flow, Mr. Chairman, is in line with the law for this process. And, Mr. Chairman, the law requires that the next steps will include the following. Now I'm going to the next steps. Actually, this number 1, Mr. Chairman, members will bear with me, was the most detailed. The others will be short. And I'm just almost coming to a close on the question number 1. Step number 14, Mr. Chairman, is approval by the Attorney General. After approval of the project agreement by the PPP committee, the contracting authority is required to submit the the final project agreement to the Attorney General for clearance prior to execution. And that step takes, the step number 15, actually there is no clear separation between step number 14 and 15, because step number 15 states as follows: notification to Cabinet. The contracting authority, Kenya Airports Authority, shall notify the Cabinet of the committee's approval to enter into a project agreement with the successful bidder. I say that the two can be conducted concurrently because communication to Cabinet is usually through Cabinet memos, and there is no Cabinet memo which would go to the Cabinet without the signature of the Attorney General and that of the CS National Treasury. So, Attorney General would be making the approval and at the same time aiding or facilitating the Cabinet memo to the Cabinet. Step number 16 is execution of project agreements, which is found under Section 61 of the Act. So upon obtaining the approvals and furnishing the notifications under Section 60, the contracting authority shall execute the project agreement with the private party. Mr. Chairman, it is important to note that in the ADANI instance, the concession agreement is in the process of being drafted by the transaction advisors procured by the Kenya Airports Authority, after which the Government of Kenya Negotiation Committee will review and agree on the terms before negotiating with ADANI Airports Holdings Limited. With regard to the application of Section 44.5 and 44.6 of the PPP Act, there has thus far been no determination in this respect. So having outlined, Chairman and members, allow me now to proceed to the other questions in your letter to me subject to this section.
As you proceed, I want to get those steps, or first of all we complete?
Yes. The question I just finished.
Right.
Because they are actually tied. Chairman was on the procurement method that the Public-Private Partnerships Directorate advised Kenya Airports Authority to use in undertaking the project. And there, Mr. Chairman, you will allow me, and that's why I'm making written submission, that there are two items highlighted there, but I want to add a third one, which will be now number 1. So number 1 in the list should be number 2, and number 2 becomes number 3. So if I'm allowed, I can proceed here. And I'm so the advice is as follows. So the Directorate advised the contracting authority on all procurement methods available under the Act. So that is a general one, that the the Directorate advised the contracting authorities on all procurement methods available under the Act, and therefore, 2, which was number 1 in the list, it is the responsibility of the contracting authority to determine the procurement method to be used for a particular PPP project. Number 3, which is number 2 in here in the written submission, is that the National Treasury received a PIP from the State Department for Transport on 1st of March 2024, and the process of finalizing the transaction is still ongoing. So the third question, Mr. Chairman, was the status of the PIP by ADANI Airport Holdings Limited, and I respond as follows. 1, the project is at negotiation phase following approval by the committee at its 47th ordinary meeting held on 21st August 2024. The PPP committee directed the contracting authority as follows. A, obtain cabinet concurrence on the implementation of the project. B, undertake a detailed stakeholder engagement to proactively consider their needs for social acceptability for the project. And C, undertake a detailed due diligence exercise of the ADANI Airport Holdings Limited in accordance with Section 27 of the PPP Act. D, ensure any material changes to the heads of terms should be referred back to the PPP committee for approval. And the head of terms simply mean broad clauses that could be found in the agreement. Number E, which is the final one, obtain the legal clearance of the concession agreement in accordance with Section 60 subsection 2 of the Act. Number 2, a team comprising of Kenya Airports Authority, the State Department for Transport, the State Law Office, and the DTPP Directorate of the National Treasury is currently in the process of undertaking a comprehensive due diligence exercise to establish the requisite capacity of ADANI Airport Holdings Limited to undertake the project. And finally, number 3, Kenya Airports Authority and a number of other government institutions, including the National Treasury, is in the process of undertaking comprehensive due diligence exercise to establish the requisite capacity of ADANI Airport Holdings Limited and stakeholder engagement of the project for social acceptance. Question number 4, Mr. Chairman. You asked about the due diligence undertaken under Section 27 and 41 of the PPP Act. Cap 430. Even though I've already addressed it, if in my comprehensive, I was giving step-by-step, blow-by-blow details on how the whole thing was conducted, or the process was conducted, but I still will repeat. Number 1, the PPP Act 2021 requires due diligence to be undertaken at 2 levels, as provided in Section 41 and 27 of the Act. 2, Section 41 requires that a due diligence is conducted by the Directorate and then contracting authority to confirm the private party is not debarred, that I already mentioned, by any country or any international organizations from participating in PPPs or similar arrangement. B, is not corrupt. C, is not insolvent. D, is tax compliant. I think this should be compliant, not complaints. It's tax compliant in all jurisdictions in which it has local presence and its home country, and that it is not in default on payment of social security and employment benefits or contributions in its jurisdictions of operation and registration. And E, has not, and its directors or officers have not been convicted of any criminal offense. Number 3, now Section 27. Section 27, on the other hand, requires that a comprehensive due diligence exercise is conducted by the contracting authority before signing the project agreement to establish the financial capacity of the private party to undertake the project, that is A. B, relevant experience of the private party in undertaking projects of similar nature. C, relevant technical expertise to undertake the project. D, and satisfied the legal, social, and environmental due diligence parameters prescribed by the Directorate. Number 4, the Evaluation Committee undertook a high-level due diligence in accordance with Section 41 of the Act, as highlighted in my response to question number 1 above, where they highlighted, I think, 22 issues. Now, number 5, the government is in the process of undertaking a comprehensive due diligence exercise in line with Section 27 of the Act to establish the requisite capacity of ADANI Airport Holdings Limited to undertake the project. Now, question number 5, Mr. Chairman, you have asked for copies of PIP's expression of interest received from investors on development of airports since 2022. The scope of information available to my ministry in relation to this question is as follows. Number 1, the National Treasury was in copy, or is in copy. We have a copy of a PIP submitted to Kenya Airports Authority via a letter dated 25th April 2023. By ADANI Airports Holdings Limited, which is attached as annexure number T. Number 2, via a letter dated 9th June 2023, the National Treasury we have a letter requesting the State Department of Transport to forward concept notes for candidates PPP projects in the aviation sector. This was a prompting letter, because once we received the communication from KAA that ADANI was interested in a PPP to develop the airport, it took a while. We gave time as Treasury. It took a while, and then we prompted the ministry. So via the letter, number 3, via a letter as reference, and which is dated 12th June 2023, informed the State Department of Transport acknowledging receipt of a PIP by ADANI Airport Holdings Limited, and that Kenya Airports Authority is yet to formally submit the PIP and their preliminary appraisal. And next year, V. Number 4, the State Department for Transport, via a letter reference there, Mr. Chairman, but dated 29th June 2023, informed the National Treasury that ADANI Airports Holding Limited had on 27th April 2023 submitted a PIP to Kenya Airports Authority for a 30-year PPP concession for JKIA under a build, operate, and transfer arrangement. The letter further stated that the Kenya Airports Authority Board of Directors, in its 358th meeting held on the 16th of June 2023, noted the expression of interest for the PPP arrangements for JKIA and other airports as from the following companies. Number one is Almaya Group, Kenya, in December 2022 for Isiolo Airport. Number two, China Jiangxi International Economic and Technical Corporation in April 2023 for Wilson Airport. Number three, Terminal Holdings, Abu Dhabi in May 2023 for JKIA. Number four, China Roads and Bridge Corporation in May 2023 for JKIA. And number five, Motor Angel Africa Corporation, America, JV, in June 2023 for JKIA. Attached again here with is a copy of the letter from the State Department for Transport, which is Annexure W. Number five, on August 24th, 2023, Kenya Airports Authority appeared before the PPP committee seeking guidance on how to prioritize the proposed concession for JKIA to a private investor for purposes of constructing a new terminal and rehabilitating the existing terminal under PPP arrangement. Between 25th August 2023 and 15th September 2023, Kenya Airports Authority engages ALG for provision of transaction advisory services, which is a firm. This ALG is a consultancy firm for provision of transaction advisory services for the development and expression of JKIA, Annexure number X. Subsequently, that is number 7, the National Treasury, through a letter reference as indicated there, but dated 6th of September 2023, advised the State Department for Transport on 3 essential steps for competitive procurement and advised them to constitute the project development team and finalize the feasibility study within the timelines they had indicated. That's Annexure Y. Now, this is number 8. And through a letter, through an email dated 8th November 2023, the Director General of PPP in the Directorate informed Kenya Airports Authority of the International Finance Corporation proposal to provide transaction advisory services for the proposed development and expansion of JKIA. Attached here with this again a copy of the email correspondent as Annexure number Z. Now, number 9, through a letter dated 22nd November 2023, the State Department of Transport then wrote to the National Treasury, informing the National Treasury that Kenya Airports Authority is currently undertaking the feasibility study for the proposed project, and that the study will be finalized by December 2023. That is Annexure AA. On 14th February 2024, ALG submit the interim feasibility study report to Kenya Airports Authority. Attached here with is a copy of the interim report as Annexure BB. Number 11, on 16th February 2024, ALG make presentation of the draft interim feasibility study report to Kenya Airports Authority, PPP Directorate and State Department for Transport. Again, I have attached here with a copy of the presentation as Annexure number CC. Number 12 is the State Department of Transport through a letter, reference as indicated there, dated 19th February 2024, forwarded the feasibility study report to the National Treasury for construction of a new passage terminal at JKIA, Annexure D. Subsequently, via letter reference as indicated, but dated 1st March, the State Department of Transport submitted a PIP by ADANI Airport Holdings Limited, currently under assessment. That is Annexure A and B as earlier cited. So this is the one that we dealt with earlier.